Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Aramutz bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead-making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Aramutz.
Live from the woods of North Carolina, the Bunny Pen in Ottawa, Canada, the Land Down Under, and the Frying Pan of Miami, it's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show, and let's get things going tonight. Tonight's guests, we have David and Maciej. Please help me when you guys get on, if I get this right, from Arktos Meadery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And they're going to come on and tell us a little bit about how they got things started and what's going on with them and what they have to offer. So, what are we drinking tonight? I've got a Misbehavin' Meads strawberry mead sent to me by Brian Galbraith. Thank you, Brian. This is awesome. It's really good. It smells just like strawberries, and it's so balanced. It's got strawberries and honey and this sort of just a little acidity behind it, just enough to offset the strawberries. And this was traveling through the heat for who knows how long, so I'm impressed. It's well done. Well done, guys. Well done. What about you, AJ?
Oh, I got a Chateau Chivette School's Out lemon tea braggot that I made last year and bottled just in time for the end of summer.
Nice.
I got a couple left, but I'm going to start another batch of this soon because I've got that yeast from the bomb.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to try it with that yeast because nothing's perfect the first time, right?
Well, one can always improve, or try to anyway. So I'm going to have to winkle that recipe out of you and give it a shot, because I think that sounds like it'd be a really nice summer drinker.
It's posted on Got Mead.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I'll go hunt it down. Is it patrons or in the open?
No, it's in open. It's in one of the brew logs.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I called it School's Out. I think I just called it lemon tea something.
Yeah, something not as cool as School's Out.
Well, I name all of my brews after Alice Cooper songs, so that's just the way that goes.
I met him once.
Cool.
Very briefly, very briefly, and in passing, and I was busy going, "We're not worthy." But yeah, I bumped into him in a restaurant in Atlanta one time. It was like, "Oh, it's Alice Cooper." Oh my god, I was such a fangirl. It was hilarious. I didn't do that all over him, of course, but inside I was just like, oh my god, totally squealing. Manny is here but not here at the moment. He's putting the kids to bed, so we are Manny-less at the moment, and he will be coming in a little bit later in the show. So never you worry, all you Manny fans out there. He will be back here sometime in the next half hour. And we have a special treat tonight with us. We have Hamish from Oz. So say hey, Hamish.
Good evening.
Good whenever.
Good, yeah, whatever the hell time it is over there.
Currently, I'm having a coffee, but as suggested, if I'm going to be on the show officially today, I've decided to open a dry raspberry melomel from the north of Victoria in a little place called Millawa. By Whitehead's Mead, who I know do listen to the show from time to time. So a big shout out to them.
Oh, cool. I think you sent me some stuff on them.
Yes, I did. They're the guys who were cleaning out the shed and found that Grandpa had mead that he made 20 years ago, a couple of big barrels out the back of it, and it was quite a nice surprise, and they've been got themselves a license and been marketing it since and making their own now as well.
Nice. Yeah, I wrote an article about that, put it on Got Mead. So if y'all are interested, that's Whitehead's Mead, and just go hit the blog, and you'll find it somewhere back in the last several months. So just scroll back. You'll track it down or search Whitehead's. It's Whitehead's with a Y, is it not, Hamish?
No, it's white, just the way you'd expect it.
Just okay.
White. white the color, head like your head.
Gotcha. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was. Yeah, cool. Thank you. So yeah, go check them out because it was a pretty neat story, and I would love to try that mead, man. That would be.
Well,
really
come
cool.
on over. I've invited you a number of times.
I know. I'm saving, dude. I'm saving. It's like, well, and it's reciprocal. You can come out here and we'll go through things.
I'm just lucky Manny's not on because he's been bagging the heck out of me for some time back coming over.
So, all right, little housekeeping. You can listen to us live on the Got Mead website at gotmead.com. And just put your mouse over and click on a Got Mead live show. That'll take you straight to the show page, and there is a player right there that will play us whenever we're live, and we'll let you pick and choose between episodes when we're not. If you're mobile, you can get us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and TuneIn Radio. Just search for Got Mead Live. Also, we have a show player on our Facebook page at facebook.com/GotMead. So if you're Facebook, if you live on Facebook, then that's where you can find it. You can download apps for any of the mobile players on both iOS and Android devices from, of course, iTunes, TuneIn, or SoundCloud. And then replays are available on Got Mead, Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and just search Got Mead Live. And one of the things I'm working on, and I've got to get going on this, try to do it over the break, is to get us on to iHeartRadio, which would be kind of cool if they'll let us be on there. Don't know yet, but we're going to give it a try. Find us on Facebook, Got Mead. Just search facebook.com/Got Mead, or just search Got Mead and you'll find both the page and the Got Mead group. On Twitter, we are at Got Mead Now. If you can't call us, tweet us. And for making mead back to basics, just put your mouse over the Got Mead Live radio show, and the drop down will give you a link where you can go and enter any questions that you might have for us on the Got Mead Live show to talk about during Back to Basics. And if you want to call in, as always, you can call in at 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. So now, if you want to help support the efforts for the Got Mead Live show and for Got Mead as a whole, then consider becoming a supporting patron member. It's only $30 a year, and you get access to our special patron forums where you get to talk with some of the most advanced mead makers out there. Oscar hangs out there. That's his place. There's award-winning recipes there, have won gold medals in competitions all over the world. So it's a really good opportunity to get that, and $30 a year. Do the math. It's not very much, and you'll help us support doing the things that we want to do with Got Mead. So all this stuff costs money. Sorry to say. I wish it was free, but it's not. So if you can help us out and you've got $30 that you don't mind spending, go ahead and get signed up. And if somebody you love is a mead lover, go ahead and buy them a gift subscription. Just email me at gotmead@gotmead.com and let me know what you're doing, and I can do a special email to let them know that they have a gift subscription, and I can even cover up for you and not admit it was you that did it. So whatever you want to do, you just let me know, and we'll get you fixed up.
Just thinking, having a secret admirer or something when you tell them that they've got a subscription. Yeah,
right. So I'm going to go ahead and get David and Maciej on, and you want to go ahead and tell them about Back to Basics?
Yeah, sure. Okay. What we're going to be talking about today is when good mead goes bad, when there's a problem. So we'll talk a little bit about identifying what's a legitimate problem and what to do about it. I figured I was going to break it down into sort of 3 stages because that's kind of how I have found things go wrong with my meads. Is sometimes it's during fermentation, sometimes it's during carboaging, and sometimes it's after it's been bottled. So that's how I was going to break that down, but I'm going to get Vicky to talk a little bit about how to identify faults as well, because she's actually done a lot more training with tasting things than I have.
Yeah, well, it's not to say that I'm necessarily the world's expert or anything, but I've learned 1 or 2 things, along the way through having the
Well,
opportunity.
compared to me, you're the expert.
Yeah, well, and I don't know about that, but we'll definitely work on it. And for those of you that want to follow along, what we're going to be using as a baseline for some of these mead faults is the BJCP fault list, which you can find at bjcp.org/meadfaults.php. bjcp.org/meadfaults.php. Don't be afraid to drop us any questions that you might have on Facebook or Twitter, or just call in. So I'm going to go ahead and add our guest for tonight, and we'll get things going. Hi, David, are you on? Oh, not quite yet. It's ringing.
Hello, this is David.
Hi, David.
Hi. Hi.
And, okay, we've got you. We got both of you?
I'm here. Yep, I'm here too.
Okay, cool. Please help me out because I don't want to be any more embarrassed than I already am. Please tell me how to correctly pronounce your name so I can get it right every time.
It's Maciej.
Maciej, thank you. I almost had it right, and I was actually listening to a internet pronunciation database for names. And so the guy's on the little recording going Maciej, Maciej, Maciej. So I actually practiced a little bit, but I wanted to make sure I had it right because I know there's regional differences and things like that. So, thank you. It's embarrassing enough to have to guess. Welcome to the show, you guys. It's really good to have you here. And, we want to find out more about what's happening at Arktos. And we want to hear about the mead tap at David's house. That was so cool. David, it was so funny because I had Tiny House on his background noise while I was working. So I'm busily typing away, working on this, that, and the other thing. And suddenly I hear, and so he wanted to put a mead tap in the refrigerator. I'm like, mead tap? Really? And so I started watching, and then I saw who it was. I was like, oh my God, I know this guy! So it was really cool. So congratulations on getting on the show. That's really kind of neat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'll bet it was. Yeah, you guys fly in the face of my theory. You broke my total theory of they base who they get on how annoying they are, because you guys weren't annoying at all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, seriously, look at a lot of these shows, and I swear to God, they're like, nope, too nice. Nope, too intelligent. Nope, sorry. Yeah. Oh, look. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like sometimes. But so yeah, tell us about how you guys did this. I mean, where did all this come out of? I gather that you were roommates at one time, but tell us your story.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. So we have a mutual friend, and he was one day he was like, "Hey, you should meet my good buddy Maciej. I've known him my whole life. I think you guys would get along." He's like, "You guys both like whiskey." So I ended up going over and hanging out with Maciej one day with our friend Danny. And at that point, I was looking for a roommate. And after about 20 minutes of hanging out, I was like, "Hey, Maciej, is it weird if I ask you to be my roommate? Are you looking for a place?" Because he was living at an apartment at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I think he was just starting to get into the mead making at that point. And I had a house with a basement that actually had a wine cellar in it. And I was like, told him about it. And so, yeah, after like 20 minutes, I was like, "You should move in." Which is kind of strange, but
well, no,
and he was like, "Well,
he's over there thinking you had me at wine cellar, dude."
Exactly. Yeah. Like a place to make my mead. That's not an apartment. Yeah.
So what about you, Maciej? It's like, so here's this weirdo asking you to come move into his place after 20 minutes. What were your thoughts?
Well, I was thinking, because I had been making some mead in my apartment, and I felt like I was doing something illegal because I just had a barrel sitting on the living room floor, and I was like, "You have a cellar? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to see it first to make sure I got enough room, but I'm in." And from that point on, it was pretty much history. Gave me a lot more room to make more meads.
And how'd you get into mead in the first place? What got you to that space?
So when I got out of the Navy in 2011, I had a little bit of free time before I was going to go to Grand Valley State and pursue a degree in geography. So I started fooling around just with making alcohol, just like basics. So I boiled some apples in water, added some sugar, and used some bread yeast. And then I put that fluid in a milk carton and put a balloon on for an airlock, and it worked. It made something. It tasted like alcohol and something in there. But when I got the concept down of how the process works, I think I just got done watching Robin Hood with Russell Crowe, and Friar Tuck in that movie has the whole like apiary thing going on, barrels and barrels of mead, and I was like, oh, I got to make that, because I've known what it was probably my whole life, but I've never actually had it before. So I thought, well, I want to try this and see if it tastes if it tastes good. So I made my first batch of mead that September. I tried a few meads in stores I was very unhappy with, and then I finally got to try some Polish mead.
Yeah.
From Jaros, and it was I think it was a 1-to-1 ratio. It was amazing. My sister-in-law heated it up. They had brought it back. It was a 6-year-old bottle they brought back from Poland.
I love Jaros.
And then they aged it for another 4. Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he really is.
And so I'm like, that's what I got to try to do. Something more traditional, a little sweeter, higher alcohol. And from there it's just kind of making batch after batch.
Dang. You need to hook up. You need to hook up with Rob Ratliff. He's made some amazing Polish meads, and when I introduced him to the folks at Corpo in Poland, when we had one of the Mazer cups, he had some of his mead with him, and I made him give them some to taste, and they were like pretty much going, so when can you start? That's how good his Polish meads are. I was stunned, I knew they were good, but I didn't know they were that good, So yeah, it was pretty amazing. So did you grow up around wine and mead, or is this just something you got interested in?
Just got interested in it. I may or may not have tried a mead when I was really young at church. Okay. My dad used to take me to, but I don't remember if that was mead or not. I was too young.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I've always known about it, what it was. My father and mother both grew up in Poland and then moved here, so they were aware of what mead was. But I've never really had drank it until 2011. So
okay, so wow, you guys just jumped right into it then. So how did you get from I make this really awesome stuff and dude, you've got a basement to let's start a business? It's actually quite simple. I'm erratic and impatient and ambitious, and all good traits to have as a mead maker.
Right. And I was like, I could, I was finishing up my degree. I think I had a semester left, and I was like, well, while I'm looking for jobs, I'll start the licensing process and start making mead, see what happens, so that I have a backup plan in case I don't become a forest ranger. And, obviously that ended up being the job I'm doing now full time, but yeah.
I'm sorry, it just cracks me up. It's like, well, I want to be a forest ranger, but just in case that doesn't work, I'm going to make mead.
Right, yeah. And we were going to do it in his basement, because in Michigan you're allowed to make mead from the home.
Yeah.
It just, after some time, we just realized it just really wasn't enough room, at least not to make a decent amount. To sustain itself, so we ended up looking for a new location out on Century Avenue. Still pretty small operation, but a lot more freedom and a lot easier to get approved.
Yeah.
Very strict rules when it comes to residential winemaking.
Yeah, I can well imagine. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, then after a year of production, that's when I started feeling like it was time to do the tasting room. And so got another few rooms attached to the production area and then built out a tasting room that has a really nice Viking mead hall feel to it.
Cool. So you did build a mead hall then?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, the article I read about you guys in the Grand Haven News was talking about, how you wanted to build a mead hall and everything, but that was a little while ago, so...
Yeah. It's this is just kind of a prototype like mead hall interior. We just bought some property out in Howard City that we're gonna put a new production area in.
Nice.
I don't know how long it's gonna be before it's ready, but that'll be the spot where we decide we're gonna build the actual mead hall. Like I'm thinking, 10,000-15,000 square foot, gorgeous stone wall, stuff like that. That's obviously like a very long project, but that's what I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah, that's okay. You guys are in GR now. Where's I know of Howard City, but my geography's failing me here on exactly. I'm from north of you guys. I grew up near Manistee. So
okay.
Yeah, but Howard City is I know of it, but not exactly where.
It's 30 minutes north, probably like north of Sand Lake and Pearson.
Okay.
But yeah, if you take the 131 north,
okay,
about 30 minutes, you'll at Howard City.
Yep. Okay. Now I know where it is.
And then we also want to stay in Grand Rapids, so we're currently looking for new locations, larger locations for a new tasting room.
Oh, nice.
As well. So.
Oh gosh, now I got to try to figure out how to visit you guys while I'm home in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I'm already trying to strong arm my husband into giving me the car because we're going to be in Flint for a few days. His family's from there, and we're going up for his mother's memorial. And while we're there, we're gonna go up a day early. And I was like, so I want to go down to Ferndale and visit B Nectar and Schramm's Mead and maybe a couple of other meaderies. And he's like, how are you gonna do that without a car? Because I'm gonna be visiting my friends up here. so yeah, we're currently having car wars. Yeah, I may have to rent a car to drive to Detroit. But cool, that's just awesome. It sounds like you guys are just kicking up the volume and really growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, if you went from a basement to a production facility, what kind of challenges did you face in upsizing your processes?
Getting used to large-scale fermenters. It's super hard to, clean and make the mead, like clean the fermenters and make the mead with just one person. For the most part, I kind of operate on a daily basis myself, and then David helps out whenever he has the chance to, because he has a real job.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to live in the working world of full time, 8 to 5 type job. So hopefully not for long though.
Nice.
So Maciej is a former nuclear submarine technician. Does that mean that the basement is completely packed and your work area gets really cramped? Is he comfortable working in those conditions? And how do you cope with such a thing?
Yeah. So I do try to maximize the amount of space I'm using. Having been on a submarine, it's a lot easier for me to work in really tight spaces. So I definitely have all of my fermenters crammed in the actual production area, which is nice because it lets me take the few hundred square feet I have of production space and maximize production.
Yeah.
So David's got the tiny house, and you've got the tiny fermentation area.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. We like to keep it tiny and compact.
Yeah, okay, what is it about you guys in tiny here? I mean, really? I mean, is this whole being a subtech? Is this like catching or what?
I think it's just subconscious. I was just so used to living on a tiny boat for so long that I feel at home when I'm claustrophobic, I guess.
Yeah, I can just see him going through the production area going, make a hole!
Yeah. In all fairness, the tiny house I live in was my wife's idea, so
yeah.
I just I followed along. It was on our third date. She pretty much said, hey, are you interested in tiny houses? And I found out later if it was no, then
that would have been the last date.
That would have been the final date. So, yeah, right answer. And luckily, I've got a construction background, so I could build her a tiny house too. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and that's curious because they touched on the thing that caught my attention. Of course, was mead tap. So,
right.
So of course I looked up in time to see her going, oh hell no, you're not going to cut a hole in the side of our refrigerator. That's brand new.
Well, I know. we ended up doing it, and I hate to admit it, but if I would have drilled the hole at that point in time, it would have been in the wrong place.
Oh, really?
We made a last minute decision on how to do the mead tap coming out of the refrigerator, and it totally would have been in the wrong place. So,
no.
She's definitely got that one on me, and definitely has national coverage to prove that she was right. So. Not much you can do about that now.
Because she was on the show and she's going, honey, measure twice, cut once. Let's make sure it's in the right spot before you get that drill, because he's got the drill in his hand.
I was like, we can always foam it shut, right? Drill another hole, whatever. Just do it. Get it done.
And we're talking a brand new refrigerator, like they just pulled the plastic off this thing, and she's going, no.
Yeah.
So, did you just? That was something that Manny and AJ and I were talking about this yesterday when we had our pre-show. Catch up on what we need to work on meeting and everything, and when we kind of were talking about that when I was telling them your story, David, and so my curiosity was it really as easy as just drilling a hole in the side of the fridge and inserting a tap, or was there a little bit more science to it than that?
Yeah, so I like to kind of just I knew I wanted a mead tap, and I had no idea how I was gonna drill it, what I was gonna even do, and so on the show, the house looks done. It actually wasn't. I'll let you guys know. It wasn't even close to being done. No plumbing work, not a lot work, but I did get the mead tap working for the show, and it wasn't till about 11 o'clock the night before the show, they did the final filming for the show, that I actually figured out how I was going to do the mead tap. I like to just do and think about things, and I was like, I'll figure it out eventually. But there was just how to make the tap and make it look nice. And if you've seen the show, we ended up using 1 inch, just copper piping, water pipe, and then I attached that to the side of the cupboard and did a nice kind of design on that, and then just ran my tubing through that. And then, of course, the best part of the tap is the bear that Maciej carved.
Yeah.
He asked me, what type of wood, and I ended up picking a very hard wood, and so I think for about 3 weeks he had hand cramps after carving that for me. But you want to know what? It looks great, and my hands were fine, so no big deal.
He's at home chipping away at this going, damn you, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have arthritis now, thanks.
Yeah, that's fake.
That's so funny. So it's all working good then. Do you just, are you just keeping a corny keg in the fridge then, or what?
So I have to give a shout out to Man Can. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Man Can. It's like 128 ounce, personal keg. I was at a brewery and I said, hey, do you guys fill these? And he's like, yeah, we call them stumblers. So you've got your growler, and then you've got your tumbler, and the 128 ounce ones they call stumblers, which I like. So basically, it's a setup that has that allows you to put just a small CO2 cartridge, and then it has a hose coming off of it. So I have that right in my fridge. I stop by the meadery every 128 ounces to up and get home, and it's actually, I don't know if it's going to be a good thing or bad thing, because when you walk in your house and one of the first things you see, is the whole house, because it's really small, so you really see everything right away. But then you see the tap, and you're like, yeah, maybe I should have one, It's been a long day.
Yeah, yeah. Man has to have his need.
Yeah.
And it does have the corny connections on the top of the cap, so it's like a screw top.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like a tiny little, it looked like a tiny little, corny keg, and I thought, wow, how's he fitting a corny keg in the fridge?
Yeah, well, with my choice, I would have a full keg in there, but I don't think the wife would have went for that.
Yeah, well, as it was, she let you drill a hole in the side of her refrigerator, so you're lucky you got away with that.
I know, she still doesn't like it, but I was like, listen, this will be good advertisement for Arktos, so, we just have to do it. And so that was my reasoning to get what I wanted. So
that's great. That's so cool, though.
For your mead recipes, do you do a lot of experimentation to fine-tune each recipe as you're developing it, or do you just make stuff and it comes out however it comes out and you work with it that way?
Right, so that's actually a pretty good question. I do a fine-tune. So Queen Bee, my traditional mead, which is my favorite, I worked on that for 2.5 years, before I even was considering opening the meadery. Just, taking a little of this away and putting a little of that in. And then once I got that recipe down, that's when I started experimenting with different fruits and spices. So now I do experiments, anywhere from 1 to 5 gallon experiments. And then when they're all completed and ready to go, I absolutely fine tune. So I'm not a scientist. I understand the concept of pH balance and all that. However, I don't measure things. Everything's to taste. It's all intuition. So if I do make a batch and I think it's good and it's something I want to continue to make, I'll figure out what it is about that mead that I don't like, and then I'll add or take away from it. Because I make mead for me, and then I share it with people. I don't make mead for other people. It's not part of my mission statement. So yeah, a lot of experimentation. Yeah.
This is a good thing. Manny's back. Hey, Manny.
Hi, I'm back.
Hey.
Sorry.
Yeah, he had to go do a TV consult. Is that what you said?
Yeah. I had to work.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, work always gets in the way.
I know, right? So unfair.
I remember when I worked full-time, I don't know how the hell I had time to do anything. So now I work part-time and I still don't have time to do anything.
You see, I work 2 full-time jobs and I don't have time to do anything at all. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably just more organized about your getting nothing done than I am.
Well, yeah, I would say about the getting nothing done part, yeah, I'm very organized about that. I can spend an entire day on Facebook, no problem. Yeah. Getting something done, that's a whole nother animal. Yeah. Working on that, though. So, Maciej, what... You're like the main dude for the meadery. So are you also handling the business side of things, or is that something that David's doing, or what are you guys doing with that?
So as far as making mead is concerned, production, running the tasting room, I handle that probably 95 to 100% of the time. As far as the business, accounting, stuff like that is concerned, me and David work together with that to make sure everything's lined up and all done properly. And then I also handle some of the, I guess you would call it marketing, social media, stuff like that, with the help of my friend Daniel Marshwinski, who he designs all the bottle labels and everything for us.
Oh, nice.
And helps out with that aspect of it. He designed our website, so...
it's really nice at Arktos. We really do have a lot of people involved, and just doing little things here and there for us, and who just kind of are good friends with Maciej, and we just really want to support what he's doing and help out where they can. So it's quite a fun little community we've got.
It sort of sounds like you guys are dealing more from a kind of have fun at your work sort of business philosophy.
Oh, absolutely. This is what it's all about. I think if I didn't enjoy doing it and it wasn't relaxed like it is, I probably wouldn't be doing it. I had enough of following rules and and doing what people told me when I was in the Navy. So
yeah, my daughter and son-in-law are both in the Army, so yeah, I totally can understand where that would be. I listen to my daughter gripe.
Oh. Feel free to let me know if you guys already asked this, but I always like to ask as many people as I can, especially on the pro end, if you guys are doing any experimentations with blending yeasts. Have you tried any of that stuff?
Blending yeast. I have only ever made one batch blending yeasts. It is a 1 gallon experimentation I did. That's not completed yet. It was mango, kiwi, dragon fruit, Ethiopian honey, and coconut water. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting combination.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Yeah, very light in flavor. None of those fruits are specifically potent or anything like that. So it's a very light mead.
Interesting. To see if that one, makes it through your quality control process to end up getting into bottles.
Right.
Dragon mango.
That's the great thing about having the tasting room too. Is that we've got a huge group of people that we have a lot of regulars. We have growler club. So a lot of people who come in, a lot, and so we get to put those out, the tasters, the ones that make it through our quality control, and put it out there and just really see, test it in our tasting room before we decide, if it's something that's going to make it to bottles or not. So it's really helpful.
Yeah. I can imagine it'd be very useful having people's input and stuff like that, because you never know whether your tastes are aligned with what's going to sell.
Right.
I was wondering if do you choose your yeast based on the recipe, or have you got a standard favorite yeast that you used for most things?
I do have a standard. I do have a standard yeast I use for most things. I have been experimenting a lot with different beer style yeasts and wine yeasts, just to see how they affect it, as far as flavor and complexity is concerned. As I make more and more experiments, I'm getting more and more curious to how things develop, and so hopefully I won't ever get bored, and it'll continue to be interesting. Whether that be initially it was what fruits do what to the meads, and then what spices, and then now it's those smaller things like the style of yeast, or what kind of water am I using.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the whole process very interesting, and continues my interest in the process of it all.
Okay, so what is your go-to yeast, if you don't mind me asking?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Well, we know Ken's is 7-1B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
It's probably a proprietary blend, right? And you just don't want to say it.
That's right. It's a yeast I found in the wild of the Amazon that I've been cultivating for generations.
Right next to that orchid, right? Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny. So what's next for you guys? I mean, right now you've got 7 meads out?
Yeah, we have 7 in bottles. Then we have a few tasting room exclusives that so everything I sell in stores right now is still. I have a few carbonated meads and stuff I have on tap that I am working on getting bottle molds before I start releasing them in the stores, and they're going to be Crown Capped and carbonated. And then I have a few hydromels, and then I'm also doing experiments at home with braggots right now. I'm hoping that they taste amazing. We're waiting for the new tasting room location in Grand Rapids before I start my microbrewery licensing process, and then I'll start serving braggots as well. That's
Nice.
something I'm super excited about.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, and you got in Michigan.
You guys-
It's a separate license, right?
It is. Yeah, it's obnoxious. They should
Yeah.
make a mead license and charge twice as much.
Don't give them ideas; they will.
Right.
Yeah, are you guys getting distributed anywhere, let's say near Florida yet, or out of state?
No, I think so. I use Vino Shipper. I think Florida's on that list, but I'm not 100% sure. So I can mail out to Florida through UPS. However, I don't have a distributor outside of the state right now. I'm working on getting a distributor in Colorado and possibly Illinois right now. But first things first is I got to get the rest of Michigan. I'm currently distributed south of Traverse City and then Lansing and west. And then I self-distribute in Traverse City and then the Metro Detroit area.
Yeah,
South of Traverse City is good.
Yeah, near Manistee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as we're looking to open this new tasting room, we're expecting to, really increase our customer base in the Grand Rapids area. A much more central location, and so we really got to start ramping up our production just to, fill the need for the tasting room. Obviously, that comes first, and then, as we ramp up our production and really get a good feel on how much we're going to need for the tasting room, then that's, I think, when we're going to really push to, expand into the other states with certain products.
That makes sense. Excuse me. Just sort of solidify your base at home, and I mean, let's face it, Southern Michigan. Well, hell, the entire Lower Peninsula has gone mead crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the craft craft alcohol. It started with craft beer, moved into the craft, liquors, and now the mead is just exploding, and which is just awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well, Michigan seems to be growing into two very important aspects of business in the world, and that is research and drunkenness. So.
Well, no, I hate to say, having grown up in Michigan, and I'm pretty sure I'm older than probably both you guys put together, that the drunkenness part's always been there. Remember, we had GM, Ford, and Chrysler, and there was a lot of reason for drunkenness there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always been in West Michigan, so that's only recently migrated over.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. Grand Rapids, and all that.
Like Holland.
Oh, Holland! Oh my God, that's even worse. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was within the last 5 to 10 years, some of the last few counties started allowing alcohol and liquor sales on Sundays. So.
Oh goodness. They still don't here. You can get beer now afternoon, but don't even think about getting liquor. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's God's day, and everybody knows God doesn't drink. Jesus notwithstanding. But
Apparently Jesus drives in Florida, because I have drive-through liquor stores that I can go on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, they have brew-throughs at the beach at the coastal cities in North Carolina, but not on Sunday. Because God doesn't do drive-throughs on Sunday.
Yeah, maybe we'll open like the first drive-through tasting room. I think that would be okay, right?
That'd be all right.
That sounds very safe.
Oh no, drinking and driving is an old and venerable institution in Michigan. Trust me when I say that.
It doesn't mean it should be perpetuated, and you know it. Hate to be the mom here, but
somebody had to do it. I'm curious. I noticed, and I've seen a lot of meads out there, and the one thing you don't see a lot of is pumpkin meads. And I saw you guys had a pumpkin mead, and I thought, how interesting. I'm curious how, as much as you're willing to tell us, of course, but, how you got that to be commercially viable, because, I have seen, I don't know how many pumpkin recipes go sideways,
Right.
It's not an easy mead to make, so what did you guys do that you can tell us about?
Maybe not for other people, but, so this is how Fairy Godmother was created.
I love the name, by the way.
Yeah. I was cooking pumpkin pie. I found this really awesome recipe that I had made the year before. Then I found it again, and I was getting ready to make it. After I put the first pie in the oven, I had the pumpkin sitting there. It was roasted. I hadn't pureed anything yet, and I was too lazy to put it together into a pie. So I put it into a 1-gallon fermenter with all the spices and every ingredient, so brown sugar, honey, water, cinnamon, vanilla, clove, ginger, allspice, and all that stuff, and the roasted pumpkin. And then I put some yeast in it, and then I fermented it, and it turned out amazing. And the bigger the batch I made, the better it tasted. So I tried a 5-gallon, then a 50, and now I'm doing it in 220-gallon fermenters, and it just gets smoother. The pumpkin comes out beautifully. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Yeah. So it was an accident.
So gonna buy some of that, man. I love pumpkin pie, and I'm one of those. Okay, dirty little secret. I'm one of those people that buys that pumpkin spice stuff that everybody teases about every fall. Everybody gets all like, oh my God, this isn't pumpkin spice, and I'm like, yeah, but I buy that stuff.
So I make my own, so I don't have to wait until fall.
Well, but when they come out with pumpkin spice flavored things. I'm one of those people that's buying that stuff. So yeah,
me too.
And that's kind of the key, though, is so a lot of these beers and stuff that don't taste good or aren't coming out right is just that it's pumpkin spiced. Whereas I use whole vanilla beans. I roast lots of pumpkins. It takes me a very long time to make it.
Oh my God!
It's incredibly. I locally source as much as I possibly can, so it's incredibly high quality ingredients that we're using. So, and I think that's the key to making stuff taste good in all reality.
Yeah.
my favorite part about the Fairy Godmother is we get people in the tasting room all the time, and we're given the rundown of all our meads, and they're like pumpkin. They're like, I don't like pumpkin, and I'm usually like, hey, I'll tell you what, because they don't want to taste it. I said, this one's on me. You taste it, and more often than not, it's one of their favorite meads. They're like, this is unlike any pumpkin alcoholic drink I've ever had in my life, and I'm buying a bottle, and I'm buying a cup now, and I'll be back for Thanksgiving.
That is so cool. Yeah, I am totally going to be hopping on Vino Shipper and get me a couple bottles of that, and if I can get over there, when I'm home, I'll definitely check it out.
I'm actually doing it right now. I'm ordering tomorrow.
See, so this show is worth your time. You just made a sale.
Right, there we go.
I do highly recommend you come in because the tasting room really is an experience. You walk in and it's another world. I mean, you pull into the parking lot and you're surrounded by barbed wire fence, and you're like, is this a prison? And then you walk in and you're like, is this a dentist's office? And then when you go in a tasting room, it's otherworldly. It's amazing.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So the new location then that you guys are doing out in Howard City, what's going to be different? I mean, other than bigger, what's going to be different about that?
Essentially, it's going to be like a 2 or 3 phase process. Right now, it's going to be pretty much a pole barn. Obviously, I'm going to design it to have a mead hall feel to it. About 1,000 square foot tasting room to start, just kind of like a satellite tasting room for people who, are traveling or going hunting and stuff in that area. It's still going to have that same mead hall, Viking-esque medieval feel to it. And I guess the ultimate goal is over the next 5 years, I want to build it out. Stone walls, stone interior, giant wood tables, like your at mead hall in Beowulf,
Nice.
And I want it to be a destination and experience because I've always wanted to go to a bar like that where I walk in and I'm just, the lighting, the ambiance in the room is just amazing. Just grab my mug of mead and be merry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. Yeah, I love that idea. That is fabulous. So, are you building the furniture and whatnot yourself, or do you have a local artist that you'd like to call out as your person of the moment?
Yeah, in the tasting room we're currently in, all the furniture. So David actually built the bar, and then the wood tables were built by Daniel, the guy who designed the bottle labels.
Oh, okay.
So everything has been crafted by us. It's a lot of work. That I don't really like to do, so I might actually hire some professionals to do some of that really nice looking stuff, just because I don't know, I feel like I would screw it up. So, but I think I haven't actually met anybody yet personally. It's going to be, I'm thinking it's going to be about a year before it's up and running, so I have a little time to look. But I'm going to try to find some local carpenters and stuff like that who can make something really special.
That is so cool. I wish my dad lived closer. He's really awesome with that kind of stuff. If I told him you were doing that and he was near, he'd be like, totally.
Well, now you've got me thinking, too, because eventually I'd like to open up my own meadery, and a mead hall, of course, is always one of the things I'd be interested in. I just finished with a medieval festival this weekend. My husband and I both do armored fighting, and we also make armor. I've now got a whole lot of wonderful ideas that my husband's going to hate. Thank you.
You are in so much trouble.
Ever since I started playing Skyrim, I've always wanted to go into a mead hall and get wasted.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, come on by.
I grew up reading Beowulf and Lord of the Rings, and, in my head, that's what those places were supposed to look like, right?
Right.
Have you guys been to? Shoot! No, I hate it when St. Ambrose, up in the Benzie area.
Yeah, you know what? I have not been to St. Ambrose yet. I drove by there the other day, but I was so short on time. I've had a couple of their meads before, but yeah, I haven't actually been in there.
You want to go in and see their tasting room.
Okay.
Yeah, trust me on this. You want to go in and see it. It's not quite your mead hall, but I think you'll see what I'm talking about as soon as you lay eyes on the furniture.
Great, yeah. No, I think next time I head up to Traverse City, I'll make sure to stop by there before I go into town.
Yeah, do it before, otherwise you'll be running out of time again. But
Right.
I go up there whenever I'm home because that's only 20 minutes from where my folks live, and and they're friends of ours, so we go up there. I'll go to Big Al's Subs in Manistee, get subs, go up there, and we'll drink mead and eat subs on the bar. But it's it's just really, it's a neat place. They did a really good job with it. It looks very nice. I've got to call him. Been bugging him to get on the show, but it's like trying to. They run hives. They've got like 900 hives, so they run hives all up and down the coast. So they're constantly like not there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're looking for Michigan honey, they're the biggest honey supplier on in the eastern seaboard.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, not cool.
So it must not be there.
Pieces of tinfoil in my mead. Not cool. I'm drinking a strawberry mead from Misbehavin', so I'll have to get some of y'all's strawberry mead and try that too. I'm a strawberry nut, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know. So, Black Stripe is a strawberry mead. It's oaked. So as the oak ages, the strawberry actually starts to dissipate a little bit.
Okay.
So it still has the scent and a little bit of the flavor. But most of the reason I love it, and I think a lot of my customers like it, is because it tastes like you're drinking a whiskey. Because of all the barrel flavor that goes into it. And I've had a lot of people go like, "Ooh, the strawberries," and they're imagining like strawberry juice, and that's not what it is.
Yeah, no.
But it is
and it
delicious,
shouldn't be. I mean, it should be balanced. So that's cool.
Right.
What kind of barrels are you using? If you don't mind telling us. If you do, then don't.
They're all. They're all. I keep the yeast a secret at all months.
Hey, a man's got to have a few secrets, right?
Right. I use custom toasted barrels. They're all new. I do reuse them. They're from World Cooperage, and they're custom toasted to a specific profile, which I will not tell you that. But so it takes about 6 weeks for them to get made for me, and then they ship them out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you using American, French? What sort of oak? Or?
So it's American oak staves and then French oak caps.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
Maybe that should have been a secret. I don't know.
Yeah, well, hey, dude, as Frank Goldbeck likes to say, rising tide floats all boats, and we're all in this together. So, you're making good mead, and that's all that matters.
That's right.
And you didn't tell us your yeast, so you're safe.
And their website rocks. It's really
Doesn't
pretty.
It? Yeah, it's really pretty. Yeah, I like it too. The background image on your website is rocking. I really like that.
Yeah.
Very eye-catching.
Daniel's really awesome. He's a talented guy, and that's just a temporary website that he made up until I can actually pay him. That's
the temporary website? My God, I don't even want to know what the other one looks like. I love that each one of the meads has its own background, and I mean your overlay changes as you scroll up. I mean, I've been doing websites for 20 years, and while I'm not doing them actively anymore, it's still, I can appreciate a really well done one. So when the time comes for when I have the budget, I'm setting aside budget right now to have a rebuild done. Has somebody else do it because I just threw mine up. I may call you guys to get your guy because I like what he's doing here. It's pretty nifty.
Oh, and then I do gotta give a shout out. So my brother Matt, he's actually the one who he doesn't design. He writes all of the little story clips.
Oh, fun! Those are good.
Yeah, every single mead is named after a folk tale or a fairy tale from around the world that in some way or form, at least in my mind, has something to do with the main ingredient in it. Yeah. And then he goes and he lets me up these little snippets, which I love.
No, I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, Black Stripe threw me for a second, and then I thought, wait a minute, chipmunks. I can't tell you how many times I've seen him eating the wild strawberries in my yard as I was growing up. So, okay, tell us more about Cricket Song then.
So Cricket Song is actually a really interesting mead. So I had a batch of Queen D I made at one point that didn't ferment out completely to its alcohol. It was really sweet, and I didn't want to just start messing around and trying to restart it. I had a friend who actually, the company doesn't exist anymore. It was Direct Trade Coffee Club in Grand Rapids, but his name was Chad, and he
goes to Guatemala and single sources Guatemalan coffee beans and then roasts them and then brews me a cold brew coffee that I infused with that batch of Queen Bee. So it turned out amazing. And so what I decided to do was to take a little bit out of every Queen Bee and infuse that Guatemalan cold brew coffee. Luckily, he's still around, so he still makes the coffee for me, even though the company's not around anymore. And then I infuse that coffee with the Queen Bee, and that's how Cricket Song is made.
So you're infusing the coffee with the mead and not the mead with the coffee? Really?
That's correct.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've tried a lot of different beers, and I think maybe one or two meads that people just throw the coffee beans into the primary fermentation or the secondary fermentation, and it's too intense.
Yeah.
It takes away from the flavor of the mead. And this way, you get a really nice balance. You get the scent of the coffee and the flavor of the coffee. The bitterness disappears, and the Queen Bee's honey still comes forward really heavily. It's nice.
Now I'm going to have to try this. I've had a couple of the award-winning coffee meads that are out there that I had at the Mazer Cup, and they were pretty stunning. And I'm not a coffee drinker, mind you. I don't like coffee. I love the smell, can't stand the flavor. And I'm a chai person myself, but I have found that there are some of the coffee meads that I really like, and so now I'm really intrigued because it sounds to me like you're doing something completely different. So
well, if you had it this year, I think that Cricket Song took silver in the Mexican category.
Okay, I wasn't able to make it this year. I had a physical stuff going on and I wasn't allowed to travel.
Right.
So yeah, no Mazer Cup. They first and only, with any luck, knock on wood, pray to the gods and all that kind of fun stuff, with the only Mazer Cup that I will ever miss. So I'll be there next year. Right. Are you guys coming out next year?
Yeah, the mixer's really fun. As long as the mixer's still going around, there's no reason why. I like to make. My brother's out in Utah, so it's a nice stop in between and then afterwards to go to Colorado. So I think it's worth it going out.
Well, not only is the mixer's going to be there, and there may be some other stuff going on too that's being worked on behind the scenes, and I can't talk about it yet. But there's some other interesting things. I'm not on the Mazer Cup staff anymore. I stepped down to I was one of the founders, but I stepped down to let others take up the staff so that I can work on some other things that need working on. So,
let's hope that it's sword fighting between the mead makers.
Now that would be good. I like that. I will tell Pete about that. That's a really good idea.
I'd be in for that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we can get AJ to get a passport for that one.
And I know where we can get my armor made.
I know, right? Yeah. Maybe I should hang on to that brigandine, huh? I was going to sell it, but maybe now I'll hang on to it. So it sounds like you guys have got some good stuff going on. I mean, it's growth and a new place and fun batches. Can you tell us any ideas you have of stuff that may be coming up, or is that all still a big state secret still?
Aside from the braggots, which I don't really want to talk too much about those, only because they're still not going to be out for a little while,
right?
And I don't want to get people all riled up and angry at me for not releasing it. I am currently working on a mead using chocolate, and not cocoa nibs, but actual chocolate. So we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty excited about it.
Chocolate sounds interesting. There's only one or two chocolate-based or meads with chocolate in them out there that I'm aware of. Rocky Mountain Meadery's got one. They've got a raspberry chocolate that's pretty good. So, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any other ones.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
This first initial prototype batch that I'm working on, it's not done aging, but it's the smell and the taste of the chocolate comes forward really nicely.
Oh.
So just gotta make a few adjustments.
Nice. Very cool. Well, I'm impressed, I mean, I can't wait to hopefully get up there, but if not, I'm totally going to order some stuff. I don't know if I'll be able to make it to both sides of the state on the same day. That's a little ambitious, but I've got exactly one day, and I have to be back in Flint for the memorial activity. So, but
I just went to the Detroit Zoo on Sunday, and then I went back to Grand Rapids and then back to the Detroit area again that night. So it is possible.
It is possible, yeah. I had this feeling that if I spend 12 hours backing and forthing across the state, I'm probably going to get in trouble with my better half. So, but this is really neat. I will, if I do think I'm going to make it up there, I will definitely get in touch with you guys. I know I got your numbers now, so I'll drop you a text and let you know if I'm going to be in the area. And we can set something up, because I definitely would want to take some pictures, do an article, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. Yep.
And, don't be afraid to send me press releases, articles, or anything else you've got coming up that you want to put out there. I'm always looking for new material for Got Mead. You know that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure.
Yeah, especially samples.
Yeah, samples are always good. Yeah, I will never turn away samples. But but seriously, I mean, if you've got an article coming out, or you just want to put something out there, or you've got a new write up, or if you guys even want to do like an ongoing build on the on the new location, you're more than welcome.
Oh yeah, like the updates and everything. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it's always fun. People love that stuff, and and it's just fun to be able to take part in what's going on inside the world. So, by all means, you know how to get a hold of me. So, but in the meantime, though, we'll let you guys get back to your regular lives. And David, I want to see more pictures of the tiny house, because they didn't show near enough of them on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, they cut out all the really good bits, to my way of thinking. But
yeah, you should. We do have a Instagram where we got a ton of pictures on there.
Oh.
If you're interested, it's MI Tiny House Journey. Like MI is in Michigan, Tiny House Journey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, tons of pictures, and we continually post on that, and it's kind of like Mead. The tiny house movement is kind of like the Mead movement. It's this like whole subculture, and people just get drawn right into it, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, cool. I will definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been just a hoot having you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, let us know what's got coming out. I'm always interested to hear.
Will do. Will do. You guys enjoy the rest of your night.
We will. Take care, guys, and thanks so much. We'll probably be dragging you back in here at some point in the future.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So shall we get Hamish to read your commercial, Vicky?
Ooh, yeah, I got my commercial in an Aussie accent. I love it. You got the page open, Hamish?
Indeed.
Awesome.
All right.
Did you know that in addition to running Got Mead, Vicky is actually a marketing specialist? With her company, Craft Beverage Marketing, she specializes in working with craft beverage companies making mead, cider, beer, wine, and spirits to find the best and most profitable ways to reach your customers and turn them into raving fans who will buy your products just as fast as you can make them. And she'll work with you to craft a plan to make it happen. Check it out. Go to craftbevmarketing.com and grab a complimentary session with her to get some great ideas on marketing for your craft business.
Thank you, Hamish.
I'm sorry, I made Vicky laugh again.
You always do that, AJ.
Well, she does this. She types shit, when I'm trying to be like serious and stuff, and it's just not working.
I can't say it because this is why I call myself a bad example.
Yeah, you really are a bad example.
Yes,
I totally am.
and my third computer keeps blipping with Skype messages all through that ad. So well done. I'll just silence that third computer.
We're doing our best to distract you.
Yeah, you guys do it really well too. I mean, they had me cracking up in the last show. It was hilarious.
That's funny.
So that's fine. We'll just wait till AJ's doing her thing and then do the same thing.
So Vicky, was it everything you thought it was going to be?
Oh yeah, I was totally squeeing over here. Totally, it was like. Yeah.
It was great.
It was.
It was fantastic.
I could see him doing like movie things,
Right.
You know, those ones like when they're the adventure movies? When a man has been put out and nothing else will do. Yeah.
Or the whole in a world.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that guy. That's the guy. So, you know, I do it the Oz version, you know.
We could do something like that.
We could, totally.
In a world where you find it hard to start up your own business specializing in beer, wine, cider, or spirits, there's only one person you can talk to. It's Vicky Rowe of craftbevmarketing.com.
It hurts to snort mead through your nose. That was good mead, too. Oh, God. Fogging up my glasses here, man.
Okay, now that we've all got the giggles, how about we start talking about when mead misbehaves?
Aw, man, do we have to?
Somebody has to be the good example. Wait a minute, what am I doing?
When your mead goes sideways, what do? You call Bond, James Bond.
Well, the first thing you do is you work out what might be wrong with it. And the first thing to do that is to work out what you think is sideways about it. Is it smell, sight, taste, sensation? What is it? So, AJ, why don't you lead us in this?
Sure. I tend to find things happen at 3 different stages, and that's why I've divided it up the way I have. There are a lot of things that happen during fermentation, and it's kind of a crapshoot on whether or not it is something that you need to worry about. Because I've had stuff that, during fermentation, I've had things that have grown fuzzy bits, I've had it taste prickly, I've had it taste tongue-numbing, it smelled like rhino farts, I had one that smelled and tasted like vomit for a little while. Yeah, I actually have had that happen a couple of times, and it turns out that it's a particular yeast that doesn't like being underfed.
Goodness.
Yeah. What yeast is that? So we know to make sure to feed it.
Oh God, yeah, it's RC212.
Oh gosh, it's so funny. That's the one
It
that
is
I've
a
got
real
for one of my batches that I'm starting tomorrow.
It's a great yeast. I love what it does, but it's really, really needy. It's a high needs yeast, and you just have to know that going in, and don't underfeed it, and make sure you oxygenate it.
Well,
otherwise, you get weird things.
I've got 3 weeks before I go on vacation. That ought to be plenty of time to get through the primary and into just the tail ends before I take off for a week. So.
Yeah, it should be fine then.
Yeah.
So it's in order to catch something that's going wrong before it's too late to do something about it, you do sort of have to be attentive. So, you got to keep your nose. I like to say I keep my nose on things because that's what tells me things more often than what it looks like. I don't keep my eye on it, I keep my nose on it. And if your sense of taste is more developed than your sense of smell, then taste it often. But the caveat is that during fermentation, there are some things that are just going to taste awful and don't make a final judgment until, after fermentation's done and it's no longer carbonated and all of that. But there's a couple of things that are important to take care of. If you've got anything that's growing moldy, then yes, pluck that out, and you might want to sanitize anything that's come in contact with it if you can, if it's not in the middle of like a full fermentation. Because I've had like folds in my in my fruit bag start growing black fuzz, but while I was waiting for the pectinase to start doing its thing. So I just sort of scraped it off, scarred it off, and used my spray bottle of sanitizer solution on that one little area. And that batch turned out okay. The vomit batches, that sort of comes and goes, and I'm not sure, I'm not absolutely positive if that's something that has to do with just the way that batch went, or whether it was something that I wasn't doing at the right time. Anything that smells like sulfur, that is stressed yeast. It's making sulfuric things, and if you don't either fix it so that it stops doing that, or treat it so that you get the smell out, it can it itself it can be gotten rid of, but if you leave it for too long, it can turn into something worse that's hard to get rid of. It can turn your sulfur compounds can start turning into mercaptans, which is the really stinky
evil
compounds. Yeah.
Well, and when that happens, it's looking for nitrogen-based nutrients.
Yeah, typically.
A lot of sometimes. Yeah, you also, and like you said, check for infection, and then also excessive sulfates can do that. So
that's true. The nice thing with excessive sulfates can often be like sulfates will evaporate.
Sulfates.
Okay, sulfites.
Yeah.
Sulfates.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you've got excessive sulfur, sometimes you have to treat it with copper.
Yeah.
A pre-1982, I believe, penny, because that's when they still contained actual copper, or a probably safer is some people will stick one of those copper kitchen scrubbies. They'll just fit. Yeah, they'll just fit a copper scrubby over the end of the racking cane.
Yeah, that's a distiller's trick too.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, if you go to your local brew shop, I know that distilling is illegal in both Australia and in America, but
not in Canada.
You find that they often sell a lot of a lot of gear that could also be used for distilling,
right.
Water purification.
Yeah.
And they'll have a fine copper mesh. It's like a copper mesh pipe kind of thing. And and you can use that for doing that very thing. It's great for getting rid of the rhino farts. It won't get rid of the cabbage mercaptans or anything like that, because once you're there, you're pretty much screwed.
All right, for those out there that are going, what the hell's a mercaptan? Why don't you guys explain that?
It's a half captain, half merman, right?
Nice.
The variety I've experienced with, I made a coffee mead that was severely lacking in nutrients, and interestingly, it came out really quite good, and I bottled it, and I took it to some friends to taste it, and then suddenly it tasted like raw cabbage, and there was absolutely nothing I could do to fix it. So that was the variety of mercaptan I've come across, and it was it just tasted like I was eating cabbage or sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Yeah, other mercaptans can be fishy-smelling, fishy-tasting as well, and that's really not a taste I think anybody wants in their mead.
I had that one once, and it was I don't know if there's anything to do once that happens. That fishy sort of.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things where if you're getting any kind of sulfurous compounds at all, then that is something that you need to address before you put it to rest. I actually have had a couple of them that have tasted sulfury, and so what I did was I either hung a penny in it, or another trick you go down to Home Depot and you get some copper pipe for like water piping, and you just tie a sanitized string around that and dangle it in the mead for a couple of hours and see if that helps. Or rack through something copper just to get a little bit of exposure of the mead to the copper. But again, you don't want to put too much.
If you make the copper just long enough to reach the neck of your carboy or your corny keg, then you don't actually need a string around it, because it'll sit in the neck and it won't fall out, and you can fish it out with your finger later.
Fair enough.
That works, yeah.
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 With your sanitized finger, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always tended to, whenever I get it during the ferment, it's happened a couple of times, but I'll tell you what, ever since I started using Fermate O, I haven't had that sulfur issue during primary. But it could be also because I started using Fermate O after I got a little bit more advanced in the whole mead making thing. So it could be that I'm just paying more attention and aerating and doing everything as like I'm supposed to now. But I don't know. Fermate O seems to be something that keeps them very happy all the time.
Yeah. often what I've found with sulfur is the first line of defense if something's going sulfurous is how far along are you in your fermentation. Because if you're only halfway through your fermentation, then you might want to add a little bit of Ferment K or DAP or yeast nutrient, yeast energizer, whatever it is that you're using. If you're more than about halfway through your fermentation, my suggestion is to get some plain old bread yeast and nuke the crap out of it. Add some water, nuke the crap out of it until it's like boiled and bubbling and starting to smell really, really bad, and then put that in. And that can help, because what you're doing there is giving your yeast a hit of some of the nutrients that they might need in a method that in a form that they can use, which past about halfway through your fermentation they can't use DAP, and DAP is found in a lot of the yeast nutrients and some of the yeast energizers that I've used. Fermento doesn't have any of the DAP in it. I think it is completely organic source nitrogen, which is why you can use that at any point in your fermentation. Now, if your ferment is completely done, like your specific gravity is down to 0 or down to 1.000, and it's not going any farther, or it's reached the yeast's tolerance, then it's not going to be benefiting by that. At which point, a splash racking is an idea for getting rid of an odor. And by that I mean you're intentionally getting some air into that, so you're gonna, get it racking and then hold the hose high and make sure it makes lots and lots of bubbles, because when the bubbles, it entrains air, and then as the air comes back out, a lot of times it takes some of the smell with it, or sometimes the oxygen from the air can react with whatever's making the stink and either precipitate out or evaporate off.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, that's when you need to start looking at copper.
Yeah.
Or at least that's been my experience with sulfur, and at any rate.
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as it's not in the part of the fermentation process where the yeast has gone anaerobic, where you're not supposed to be adding oxygen, then yeah, you're okay. But mostly you're going to see that in the beginning part anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal.
The thing is, the justification with the splash racking is because you're still either in a semi-active fermentation or just after it, you've still got a lot of carbon dioxide in the mead that's going to be coming out too. So the theory, I think, behind that is that the oxygen's going to react with whatever you're trying to get out, and the carbon dioxide will quickly displace it because you're shaking it around, so it's going to be starting to come out. You're going to be degassing it at the same time. And I think that's the rationale behind doing a late splash racking. And actually, I have had wine kits where they suggest that your racking into secondary after fermentation is stopped should be a splash rack. And I don't know whether that's to get some micro-oxidation or whether that's just to get a little bit more oxygen to get whatever yeast are left to finish the job. I'm not sure what the rationale is behind that. That's one of the things I don't really like about wine kits, is they teach you some procedures, but they don't teach you the science behind it.
Yeah.
But that's, they say to splash rack on your way to secondary, so, I don't tend to worry about entraining oxygen as long as there's still carbon dioxide in the must.
Yeah.
Now that's me personally. Your mileage may vary, and Pete may come on next week and tear me a strip about that. But that's how it's been working for me, and I have not had oxidation problems in many cases. And the ones that I have, it's usually because I'm a numpty and forgot to fill an airlock.
In red wine, you're right there, Chevette. AJ,
what's her name?
I do answer to Chevette Girl. It's all good.
It's quite common to just be a bit rough and ready with it when you're going to secondary, about a week after after you pitch the primary. It's still under ferment at that point, but with white wines, definitely not. With white wines, everything is ice cold and careful, no oxygenation. So it really depends on what you're dealing with. But my experience with mead is that it handles oxygenation or oxidization much better than even red wine does. So as such, yeah, the splashy racking isn't a harmful thing most of the time. And if you have a bit of a pong in there, even if it's just from overdosing the sulfates yourself, then it'll help get that out.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm glad he said that, because I think because of the color of mead, a lot of times we think of it as a white wine and this really delicate flower. But one of the things I've noticed is that it's not white wine or red wine. It's mead, and it's very different.
And it's very robust, actually. Mead
right.
is incredibly resilient. People don't realize just... it was so funny. I was just looking over the list of mead faults from the BJCP, which if you guys look at the show page, I do have a link to the BJCP faults there. But there are three things that if you always do them with your meads is going to eliminate maybe 70 to 80% of your problems. And one is to know your yeast. All yeasts have a temperature range that they're happy in. So if you know that your yeast is happy from this temperature to that temperature, then don't do it at that plus 10 or this minus 5. Do it in that range and keep it there. Do whatever you have to do to keep it in that range. Second thing is sanitize, and did I say sanitize? You can't get an infection, or at least it's damn difficult to get an infection if you're sanitizing everything that touches that mead before, during, and after, whether it's in the bucket or out of the bucket. And the other thing is to, what was the other thing? There was another thing. is to be aware of your fermentation process and where you are in it. So, you've got your start, you've got your finish, and then you've got your sugar reduction levels throughout that. And if you know where the first third is, the second third is, and the final third is, if you're paying attention to when it hits the lag phase, then you'll know when to feed your yeast, because yeast likes to be fed. So if you take care of those three things, then 70 to 80% of your problems are just going to go poof.
Well, I find a lot of the things that have gone wrong with primary fermentation are either a problem with your base recipe or a problem with your procedures. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times, the base recipe either doesn't call for enough nutrients for the yeast you're using, or enough nutrients at all, because you're converting a wine recipe and you don't have anywhere near. Yeah, or also. A lot of older recipes that are not up with the whole idea that honey is acidic have you adding acid blend, and sometimes fruits can be acidic as well.
Yeah.
So pH is another big one that can stress out your yeast. And sometimes your yeast will express its dissatisfaction by just stopping or slowing down significantly, at which point you get out your pH tester and you check. And sometimes they express their discontent by making stink. Yeah. So it's another, it's like a baby. They've only got so many ways to get your attention.
Yeah, about that adding acid up front. Almost every time I hear someone from the mead world talking about how winemakers add it up front, they always say, "I don't know why." Now,
I'll tell you why.
The reason why. No, I got the reason here. It's all right.
You do? Okay.
The reason why the reason why we add the acid up front when making wine is because wine has a much higher buffering capacity than honey, so it actually will help. It doesn't affect it as much. But the trick is if you add acid to a finished brew, it has a much less chance of bonding to the brew itself, and as such, you get a lot of it falling out in crystal. So it's cheaper and easier and more effective to add it up front. But if you do that to mead, you get into a problem.
So with mead, then, if you need to do acid, you're going to want to do that at the end when you know what you're dealing with.
Well, you want to do taste.
That's true.
You want to do
and it's going to be less easy to adjust it. You're not going to be able to adjust it as far as you can adjust wine. But typically, I've tried adjusting acid a few times and had some taste-offs, and almost every time you go, "Oh, that's interesting," and then you do a proper taste-off and you go back to the original where you didn't add anything.
Okay, that's interesting. I figured that the reason that there was a whole lot of things that one did when one was using a fruit other than grapes was to make it as close as possible to grape wine must, because that's what all the research has been done on. Mm-hmm. So my idea, my whole concept for my early winemaking days was make it as close to a grape must as possible because we know how that works.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And that's why you want the acidity, you want the sugar content, you want the tannin level, you want all of that to be similar to a grape must because that's what the yeast were developed for, and that's what all of the research on the yeast and on fermentation has been done for is grape wine. So
ideally, yes, but honey doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I realize that, but I mean, I also come from a background of having made a lot of wine using sugar rather than honey. Yeah, so it does work when you're making fruit wines and not using honey. It's just honey itself breaks down into acidic compounds, so it just makes it even worse. And I agree with you that fruit has got a much more of a buffering capacity when it comes to dealing with drops and raises in acidity. But you'll still see fruit. You'll still see fruit mead recipes. The older ones saying to add acidity when your honey's probably adding more than enough.
Yeah.
And, I even have to be careful when I use just plain fruit, because red currants, if I use too many of those, I get acidity problems, and then my RC212 makes rhino stank. That's my biggest problem, is that either that or now, not so much anymore, because now I know how to feed the stuff. I pretty much double what I'm going to be, what I would use for any other yeast, I double it, and that's how much I feed RC212 when it comes to nutrients and Energizer. But it'll throw off stink as well if you happen to have let the pH get too low. So if it's too acidic, then that's a problem. So so often it's a problem with the base recipe, and sometimes it's a problem with the procedures. Like the reason that I ended up with some black fuzz on that fruit bag was because I don't tend to like using sulfites to sanitize my fruit before a batch, but I have discovered with certain fruits, specifically pears, that if you're not going to heat treat them, then you need to sulfite them if you're going to use pectinase, and I always use pectinase. Alright, pectinase, that's another one. Jellyfish. Vicky had mentioned having jellyfish.
Yeah, jellyfish. Yeah, when you get that amorphous blob that's just sort of hovering about in your mead, and you're like, what the hell is that?
It's a mother.
Sometimes it's a mother, and sometimes it's there's pectin blobs, there's bacteria blobs too. I have seen some really scary looking pictures of people doing people in their meads that have gone sideways, and they show these. Well, they look like jellyfish without the tentacles. They're just these big sort of gluey blobs that are just sort of moping about in their meads. So, the problem is of course, where does it come from? So some of it, I think pectin, generally speaking, is going to probably be more dispersed. It's not, going to clump together like that so much. Although I noticed thicker areas in a mead with pectin in it. But more likely it's going to be like it's going to be a bacteria, or like Hamish says, it might be the mother if you've got an acetic issue going on and it's going towards vinegar.
Well, Acidobacter is just another bacteria, so it's definitely bacteria.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, from what I've always used pectinase when I'm using any kind of fruit. So except for Joe's Ancient Orange. So I've never had the whole pectic problem, so I don't know myself what it looks like, but I think I remember it being little blobs in what I've read.
It's little-ish blobs. I mean, what I'm talking about is like the fist-sized globules that loiter about in your mead. Yeah, and they look like jellyfish. They're just nasty-looking things. Yeah.
Vicky's talking about the stuff that gets stuck in your tap when you're trying to pour your vinegar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
which oddly enough, the times I've made vinegar, I haven't had a blob like that. I never had a mother blob. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know.
She's got well-behaved Acetobacter.
Well, they were also in shredded apples, so they may have gotten dispersed.
Yeah. But yeah, pecticase tends to be a little bit more uniform, generally speaking. But again, that you can avoid most of that by sanitizing, obviously. And in the case of Acetobacter, sometimes I know a lot of people that go with the wild yeast thing, and that's really cool. The problem is you don't know what wild yeast you're getting. You just hoping that it's the right one. And this is why I personally, and this is up to the individual, but I personally do not go the wild yeast route. I go with a yeast I know that I want to use, and that's the yeast I use, and that sucker gets stoppered. Once I pitch, it's that sucker's stopped up. It's got an airlock on it, and I ain't letting the outside world into that bucket or carboy, depending on the need. I'm going to keep it out and make sure that I don't get stuff in there that I don't know where it's come from.
Yeah, see, I tend to use, when I make my apple run, I'm using apples that are full of worms, and, I wash them, but I'm sure I'm not getting everything off of them, and I certainly can't sanitize the insides of them.
Yeah.
So usually what I do, if I have time to treat it with pectinase, I'll also sulfite it at the same time, but I know from my experience with these apples, I usually, once I press it, end up with juice that's about 1.050 for specific gravity, and I have actually had a couple of batches where, while I was waiting for the pectinase to do its thing, the native yeast had a ball, and I had stuff that was it was about half fermented already, so it was already down to 1.020030, something like that. And so, because I, like Vicky, don't trust wild yeast to do the job I want done, I usually, when I have batches that I know there might be wild yeast, I make sure that I'm going to pitch something with a kill factor, and usually for me that go-to is K1V 1116. So,
K1V pretty much is the assassin bug of the yeast.
Yeah, so
K1V is no longer available in my country.
Oh, that bites.
Really? Why?
I don't know. They've replaced it with Hello or something strange.
Hello?
Okay. They've replaced it with Okay.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
I've only got 4 kilos left, so I'm getting anxious.
4 kilos?
Well, I'm sure we can arrange something, we can figure something
4
out.
kilos. I'm sure you could bank some of that.
Yeah.
Well, it went out of date, and the local brew shop turfed it, and I went in there asking him for it, and he's like, they don't make it anymore. I'm like, I need it! And he said, oh, well, there's 6 or 7 kilos in the bin if you want it.
Probably stored for years.
The freezer is your friend in that case, I would think,
Yeah, it's working a treat. It's working a treat for me still.
There you go.
Yep. I think we've covered just about everything.
Well, and I mean, there's
aside from Manny's waxworms.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tell us about the waxworms, Manny. We're curious.
Well, since I one of the meads I made, I used the whole hive basically. Just the guy, the local beekeeper I get the stuff from, he just gives me the raw. Just it's spun, but that's it. There's no heating, nothing. So there are literally chunks of hive in there and entire bees, and along with the hive and the bees come the gorgeous waxworms, which basically look like mealworms. They're gross, but the last 5-gallon batch I made, I saw 2 or 3 of these weird things floating in there when it cleared up, and when I got close, I at first I was freaking out because I thought something had gotten in. But it turned out to be waxworms, which are just moths that seem in the hive, or they lay their eggs in the hive and they eat the wax. I guess they call them waxworms because they eat the wax. But luckily, fermentation kills everything. So once you rack off them, you don't have to worry about them anymore. The only thing I wanted to try and save were the whole bees. Maybe put like a little bee in the bottom of each bottle, kind of like the mezcal worm.
Yeah. Icky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a no.
As much as I'm okay with pressing wormy apples into apple cider that I will drink before it's been sulfited, I kind of have a squeck factor about insects floating around in my stuff.
And besides,
especially if they've got a stinger attached.
Yeah.
The bee looked pretty cool. It didn't look gross. I mean, there was a full and intact bee. It didn't stay intact, but when it was intact,
that's the
it looked
other
good. Yeah, but.
And did it stay at the bottom where it was supposed to?
Yeah, it did. It stayed. It stayed down. The waxworms did not, though.
Yeah,
Gross.
yuck.
Ew.
Okay, I'm doing the girly hand wavy thing right now. Like, ew.
Yeah, I'm just doing the ew and reaching for the strainer thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gone now. They're gone. they stayed at the bottom after the initial rack.
All right, I guess it's time to get on to things that go wrong during aging. Again, it's the same thing. Keep your nose on it. Keep your eyes on it. Smell, look, taste, and
keep your airlock full.
Yeah, keep your airlock full. I like to have a sniff when I'm changing the water in the airlock or refilling the airlock. That's how I keep my nose on things. But yeah, in my particular case, I've had a couple of things go weird with airlocks. I've had people bump the carboy and the airlock fall off, and then nobody told me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little tiny bit of backwash from the mead actually it was